When the announcement came from the Galactic Council, humanity did not understand it at first. People all over Earth stared at their screens, watched the translations, and waited for someone to explain what was happening. The Council's message was short, cold, and delivered without emotion. It said that Earth had been placed on a restricted list. It said humans were prohibited from expanding further into space. It said the decision was final. For a few moments, silence covered the entire planet. It was the kind of silence that happens when something unbelievable suddenly becomes real. Scientists at research stations froze mid-sentence. Workers in factories stopped their machines. Students in classrooms stared at their teachers, unsure what this meant for their future. Even world leaders, who always tried to appear calm, looked shocked. People expected there would be a reason, maybe something Earth had done wrong. But the Council only said humanity was unpredictable, emotional, and dangerous if allowed too much freedom. That single line was repeated again and again across media channels, as if someone was trying to make sure humans remembered it. Many felt insulted. Some felt angry. Others felt confused. How could an entire species be judged like that? Earth had been trying to join the larger community of worlds. Humans had sent ambassadors across long distances, shared scientific studies, offered peaceful cooperation. Yet the final decision was a rejection, not even with explanation, just cold dismissal. In the days that followed, people argued endlessly. Some said the Council was protecting itself from humans. Others said powerful alien groups simply didn't want competition. But no one knew the real reason, because the Council refused to answer further questions. Still, the shock never fully settled. For many, the idea that the entire universe has rejected us became a painful thought. Young people who dreamed of traveling beyond the solar system wondered if their futures had just been taken away. Space organizations paused their long-term missions. Scientists who worked on deep space technologies suddenly found their funding threatened. It felt like humanity's path had been blocked permanently. But the strange thing was, despite frustration, there was no major unrest. Ordinary people didn't explode into fury. Instead, there was disappointment, and beneath that disappointment, something much deeper, determination. Humans had spent centuries surviving disasters, wars, and divisions. They had rebuilt again and again. This time, they were not facing another species or a war. They were facing doubt. The galaxy doubted them. That was enough to light a fire that spread quietly through the hearts of millions. There was one broadcast that changed everything. It appeared unexpectedly, coming from a small space agency on a remote island nation. The director stood in front of the camera with no fancy stage. No large team behind him, just simple equipment and a tired face that had clearly been awake for many nights. He said, "If they believe we are unpredictable, then let us surprise them with our unity. If they say we are emotional, then let our emotions drive us forward, not backward. They say we are dangerous. Then let us prove we are dangerous only to ignorance and limitation." Those words were shared everywhere. People repeated them. Students wrote them on boards. Workers set them as wallpapers on their devices. It wasn't a call for rebellion. It was a call for self-belief. Something inside humanity shifted after that. Bit by bit, Earth stopped feeling defeated and started feeling awake. The most powerful nations held emergency meetings. Instead of talking about anger, they talked about opportunity. If the galaxy had closed its doors, then Earth would strengthen itself without waiting for permission. Leaders agreed that humans should not beg for acceptance. Instead, they should focus on becoming the best version of themselves. In the following months, scientists and engineers gathered in conferences that lasted long into the night. They reviewed every project paused by the Council's decision. Rather than cancel them, they redesigned them. Instead of depending on alien technology or advice, they looked for solutions within Earth's own possibilities, What surprised many people was how ordinary citizens stepped forward. Farmers offered their land for testing ecosystems. Students volunteered to help in data research teams. Retired engineers returned to give guidance. It felt like a movement growing from the ground up, not from government orders. Parents encouraged their children to study harder, reminding them that humanity's future now depended on its own strength. Teachers created new programs to inspire curiosity. Even small local workshops began experimenting with new materials, new engines, and new ideas. Simple people, who had never thought they could influence the future of Earth, suddenly became part of something bigger. Across cities and rural areas, across deserts, islands, and mountain villages, there was a shared silent promise. Humanity would not let the Council's judgment become its fate. It wasn't easy. The ban hurt Earth's economy. Alien partners canceled trade agreements. Resources that used to arrive from other worlds suddenly stopped. But instead of breaking, humans adapted. Old factories were repurposed. Local suppliers replaced interstellar companies. Innovation didn't slow down. It accelerated. In time, humanity noticed something important. Without alien competition, without pressure to meet Council requirements, Earth scientists felt free to think wildly, creatively. They were no longer trying to impress anyone. They were trying to improve life on their own planet. A young researcher in a mountain lab designed a new type of engine component, using minerals found only in Earth's crust. She had no intention of showing it to the Council, but when her team tested it, they realized it worked far better than expected. At a coastal research center, a group of marine engineers discovered a way to store energy using deep ocean pressure systems. It was something alien scientists had never considered, because their planets did not have such oceans. And in an old factory, converted into a tech workshop, a small group of engineers found a method to recycle toxic waste into clean fuel. The design wasn't pretty, and the first prototype nearly fell apart, but it was a breakthrough no one had imagined years earlier. These advancements were not born from competition with the galaxy. They were born from limitation. Ironically, the same restriction meant to control humanity was now encouraging creativity beyond anything the Council had predicted. As Earth slowly grew stronger, rumors spread among off-world observers. Some alien traders whispered that humans were becoming more advanced, not less. Others said Earth was unpredictable in a new way, calm on the outside, but working intensely beneath the surface. A few Council members complained publicly that the ban might have the opposite effect of what was intended. But Earth remained silent. Humans were not rushing to show the galaxy what they were building. They were working in private, building a foundation, preparing for a future that no one else could control. Meanwhile, ordinary life continued. Children played, markets opened every morning, families cooked meals together, and people tried to live normally. Yet everyone could feel that something had changed in the air. There was a sense of unity, of shared destiny. Even people with different beliefs, different cultures, and different lifestyles found common ground in one idea. Humanity deserved the chance to rise. Years passed, but the memory of the ban never softened. It stayed alive in the minds of millions, not as a wound, but as motivation. People spoke about it like a turning point. Before the ban, humanity had been reaching outward, seeking approval. After the ban, humanity turned inward, seeking strength. Children who had felt hopeless on the day of the announcement grew into confident adults who wanted to contribute to Earth's progress. Young researchers who once dreamed of traveling to alien worlds now dreamed of inventing something powerful enough to change their own world first. And leaders who once waited for Council recognition began shaping policies that protected Earth's independence. Through all these changes, one truth became clear. The Council may have closed the door, but humanity found another path. A path built by ordinary people who refused to accept limits. A path that led not outward, but upward. The galaxy wanted humans to stay small, predictable, and harmless. Instead, the ban made them focused, united, and endlessly creative. Earth was no longer waiting for a chance to join the wider universe. It was preparing for the day the universe would come knocking this time. Not with restrictions, but with respect. And that quiet determination, born in the moment of rejection, became the spark that would one day reshape the destiny of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. After the Galactic Council's ban, Earth went through a strange period. On the outside, everything looked normal. People went to work, children went to school, markets opened, trains ran on time, and life moved forward like it always had. But beneath that quiet surface, something powerful was changing. Humanity was beginning a new chapter, one that no alien government had expected. At first, the ban felt like a heavy weight on everyone's shoulders. Space agencies had to delay their missions. Many international research programs were shut down or scaled back. Factories that built parts for deep space ships closed temporarily, and many workers feared they would lose their jobs forever. Even space enthusiasts who had decorated their bedrooms with star maps and posters of distant galaxies felt their dreams slipping away. But then something surprising happened. Instead of giving up, people started asking new questions. If they couldn't go out into the galaxy, what could they do here, on their own planet? If someone told them, "You can't expand," why couldn't they expand in a different way, through knowledge, creativity, and innovation? Slowly, this idea spread everywhere. Space engineers, who no longer had alien trade to depend on, began redesigning systems with what they had available on Earth. They used older materials, but found new ways to combine them. They experimented with designs that had once been rejected because alien advisors said they were inefficient. Now humans were free from that judgment, and they discovered those designs held huge potential. One group worked deep underground in an old mining facility converted into a research hub. There, far from sunlight and outside distractions, they focused on building a new generation of engines that didn't rely on the exotic fuels Earth used to import. The first attempts were ugly, full of pipes and wires that seemed ready to burst. But after months of trial and error, they managed to create a small engine that burned clean and produced more thrust than expected. It wasn't perfect, but it was proof that humans could advance, even without alien help. Meanwhile, above the oceans, floating labs anchored in calm waters carried out experiments on energy production. Scientists found that deep-sea pressure, combined with specialized materials, could store energy in a way no one had ever tried before. These discoveries weren't guided by alien textbooks or council-approved manuals. They came from human imagination, shaped by necessity. In cities, community innovation centers opened up, large halls where anyone with an idea could come, share, and test. Teenagers, artists, hobby inventors, retired engineers, and university researchers all worked side by side. They built tiny robots, low-cost generators, new types of batteries, agriculture devices, and communication tools. Many ideas failed. Some succeeded. But what mattered was the feeling that everyone was part of something bigger. The ban had removed the galaxy from their reach, but it had brought humanity closer to itself. Governments, instead of enforcing strict control, encouraged this movement. They created open-source libraries where research data was shared freely. They told people that progress belonged to everyone, not just large organizations. For the first time in a long time, Earth felt united toward a single mission: grow stronger quietly, steadily, without begging for approval. One of the biggest turning points came when a major energy lab successfully stabilized a new type of reactor. It wasn't as large or powerful as alien reactors, but it was far more efficient. Using locally available minerals and a design inspired by natural geological formations, the reactor created clean energy without pollution or dangerous waste. The discovery spread like wildfire. News stations covered it continuously. People felt hopeful again. The Council had expected Earth to stagnate after the ban. They assumed humans would stop trying, get discouraged, or turn against each other. Instead, Earth's progress accelerated. Without alien restrictions, humans became braver in their research. They explored ideas that had once been labeled too risky or unlikely to work. Many of these ideas turned out to be breakthroughs, but the most important change wasn't technological, it was emotional. People across villages, towns, and major cities began to feel a sense of pride in being human. For so long, they had believed the galaxy held the answers. Now they realized they could find answers within themselves. Students who once dreamed only of alien worlds now dreamed of shaping Earth's future. Workers who lost their jobs when factories shut down were rehired in new workshops that produced advanced components for experimental devices. Farmers adopted new irrigation systems developed by local inventors. Even hospitals started using new treatment machines designed by teams of young engineers. Earth wasn't just surviving the ban, it was improving in ways no one had predicted. But this progress didn't go unnoticed. Alien observers stationed near the solar system began sending reports back to the Council. They wrote that humans were active, more active than ever. They said Earth's cities were glowing brighter at night due to new energy networks. They said they detected unusual technological signals that didn't match previous human capabilities. A few observers worried that Earth was becoming unpredictable in a new way, not because of aggression, but because of innovation. Still, Earth ignored the rumors. Humans weren't trying to impress anyone. They weren't planning to challenge the Council. They were simply working, quietly and consistently. The ban had forced them to become independent, and independence felt powerful inside hidden research centers. A new sense of collaboration grew. Scientists no longer worked alone in narrow fields. Instead, physicists partnered with marine biologists. Engineers partnered with chemists. Medical researchers partnered with energy specialists. This cross-field teamwork created inventions that would never have existed in traditional scientific systems. For example, one team discovered a new material modeled after the shells of deep-sea creatures. They studied how pressure-resistant shells form naturally, then recreated the pattern in synthetic form. The result was a metal-like material that was extremely light yet incredibly strong. It could be used for buildings, vehicles, armor, and even spacecraft hulls if humanity ever needed them again. Another group focused on communication systems. Since Earth was cut off from interstellar communications, they developed a type of signal technology that worked through atmospheric particles. It allowed data to travel faster than previous Earth networks and didn't interfere with weather patterns. These inventions didn't stay locked inside labs. They spread across Earth. Manufacturers began producing the new materials. Communication companies adopted the improved signal system. Technology companies redesigned their devices to fit the new energy sources. It felt like a second industrial revolution, except this time, it wasn't being pushed by competition or conflict. It was fueled by purpose. People loved seeing progress happen around them. They felt part of something that belonged to them, not just to governments or scientists. When a new prototype succeeded, celebrations happened everywhere online. When a discovery didn't work, people didn't blame each other. They encouraged the teams to try again. The fear and uncertainty that came after the ban had been replaced by confidence. Even children felt this change. Schools introduced new science clubs. Kids built small gliders, vehicles, and energy models. Many of them said they wanted to become inventors, explorers, or researchers when they grew up. For them, the ban wasn't a limitation. It was a challenge they wanted to overcome. Years passed, and humanity continued to innovate. What started as a reaction to rejection had become a culture of progress. People were no longer trying to prove themselves to the galaxy. They were simply proving themselves to each other. And yet, deep down, everyone knew one thing. The galaxy might have closed its doors, but humanity was still moving forward. The Council had tried to stop Earth from rising, but they had unintentionally sparked the greatest era of advancement in human history. Earth had not become violent or rebellious. It had become creative, united, patient, and driven. The alien ban had not weakened humans. It had made them stronger. The quiet determination that had begun in lonely research rooms, small workshops, busy classrooms, and crowded factories was now shaping the future of the entire planet. Humans had learned that true progress didn't need permission, and strength didn't require approval. In the shadows of restrictions, humanity had grown taller than ever before. And though the galaxy didn't know it yet, Earth was preparing for a future that no council ban could ever control. As Earth continued to grow stronger in silence, the rest of the galaxy slowly began to sense that something unusual was happening. Even though the Galactic Council had cut formal ties with humans, not every alien group agreed with the decision. Many neutral observers, scientists, and traders still passed near the solar system for their own reasons. And whenever they did, they always noticed something strange. Earth was changing. Before the ban, the planet had been busy, loud, sometimes chaotic with its rapid growth and constant communication with other worlds. But now, from a distance, it looked calm, almost too calm. Ships that once traveled frequently between Earth and nearby stations had disappeared. Yet the planet's energy readings were rising. Signals from Earth showed new patterns no alien had seen before. It was as if humans had stopped looking outward, but started building upward, inward, and deeper than ever. Some alien scouts thought humans were collapsing quietly. Others suspected Earth was hiding something. But none of them expected what was actually happening. Inside the planet, in cities, towns, villages, and underground labs, humanity was living through the biggest innovation wave in its history. Ideas that once seemed impossible had turned into working machines. Concepts that were laughed at in the past were now being tested seriously. Every new breakthrough led to another. People started believing that they were capable of anything if they worked. Together, it was in one of these underground labs that a group of researchers made a discovery that would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. They were not trying to create weapons or faster spaceships. They were studying energy flow, how to move it more smoothly, efficiently, and safely. In the process, they discovered an energy pattern that defied every known rule of physics taught by alien experts. Instead of relying on hyperlane technology, which the Council controlled, the team found a way to open tiny folds in space using Earth's own energy sources. At first, it was only a small ripple big enough to move a sensor through. But even that was something the galaxy believed humans could not do for centuries. The researchers celebrated quietly, aware that this breakthrough would attract attention if revealed. They ran tests again and again, refining the stability of the ripple. Eventually, they managed to move a small drone through it and return it safely. The drone came back with clear video footage showing the vacuum-like environment inside the fold, proving their discovery was real. While they celebrated, alien observers stationed outside the solar system began detecting strange energy signatures coming from Earth. The patterns didn't match any known human technology. Some observers grew suspicious. Others grew curious. One report reached a Council intelligence officer who dismissed it, saying, "Humans lack the stability and discipline to reach such advanced levels. They are simply experimenting without understanding the risks." Another report, however, came from a respected alien scientist. He wrote that Earth was developing systems beyond predicted timelines, and that continued isolation may not achieve the intended result. Inside Earth, people weren't concerned with what aliens thought anymore. Their focus was entirely on progress, growth, and making life better. New energy networks powered cities without pollution. Advanced medical devices cured illnesses that had once terrified families. Communication systems allowed instant connection between continents. Farms produced more food with less land. Transportation became cleaner and faster. Humans were doing all this without any alien help. But the real turning point came when a team of young engineers, working in a converted warehouse, accidentally made a discovery while trying to improve a propulsion system. They created a small craft, not a spaceship, but a test shuttle capable of moving through space using the new folding energy pattern discovered earlier. Their shuttle didn't need hyperlanes. It didn't need council approval. It used Earth's own technology, pure and independent. At first, the tests were limited to the outer edges of the solar system. The team kept it quiet, not wanting to risk attention. But even with secrecy, the strange movements of the test shuttle were noticed by alien patrols operating far beyond Pluto. They had never seen a craft move without a hyperlane jump. They followed the signals, traced them, and confirmed the unbelievable. Humans were traveling outside their solar system with their own technology. Alien reports flooded the council. Earth has developed independent space warping capability. This represents a major threat to the balance of interstellar travel. Immediate review of Earth's restricted status is required. The council was thrown into confusion. They thought the ban would keep Earth stagnant, locked in one place. Instead, it had forced humans to innovate in ways the galaxy had never seen. Instead of weakening humanity, the ban had set them free. While the council debated, humans continued improving their technology. They built better reactors, better materials, better engines. They didn't brag about their progress. They didn't broadcast it. They didn't challenge the galaxy. They simply worked, driven by a deep, quiet determination. But Earth's growing power became impossible to hide. One day, a deep space monitoring system detected something incredible. A small human-built craft appeared at the edge of a council-controlled sector without using any hyperlanes. It was moving slowly, peacefully, carrying no weapons, only instruments and communication equipment. The craft sent a simple message to anyone listening. It was conducting a long-distance test flight. Council officers panicked. How are they here? They are not allowed beyond their solar system. This is a breach of council law. Some wanted to send military ships to intercept. Others feared attacking humans would spark conflict. A few were simply stunned, unable to understand how a previously restricted, unpredictable species had achieved what only the most advanced civilizations had mastered. Meanwhile, back on Earth, people watched the first test flight with overwhelming pride. They weren't celebrating to show power. They were celebrating because they had proven something to themselves, that they didn't need anyone's permission to grow, learn, and advance. As more tests succeeded, humanity gained confidence. But even with all this progress, they remained calm and patient. They didn't boast. They didn't challenge the council. They avoided conflict at all costs. Still, the galaxy couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Humans had surpassed expectations. They had developed technology beyond what the council planned to allow. They had advanced in isolation faster than many species did with full support. The council wanted to understand how this had happened. But the answer was simple. When humanity lost access to the galaxy, it gained access to itself. It had been forced to rely on its own creativity, and that creativity had taken them farther than anyone dreamed. Some alien worlds admired this silent rise. They whispered that perhaps humans were not dangerous, but resilient. Others feared humans more than ever, believing they might seek revenge. But Earth was not thinking about revenge. Humanity was thinking about freedom to explore, freedom to grow, freedom to define their own path, not in homes, parks, factories, labs, and quiet corners of the world. People carried this pride like a torch. They had been judged unfairly, but instead of breaking, they built themselves back up, stronger, smarter, united, and soon. This strength would bring them face to face with the very rulers who had once tried to control their destiny. The ban had created the opposite of what the council wanted. Instead of limiting humans, it had unlocked the most powerful force in the universe, human determination. And that determination was about to shake the galaxy. Time when everything seemed to be changing faster than anyone could keep up with. Back on Earth, people were slowly recovering from the shock of the Council's suppression, and now from the even bigger shock of learning that the Council's threats were not working anymore. There was a new kind of energy in the air, a strange mix of hope and caution. Like everyone was holding their breath for what might come next. The man who had given the speech at Unity Station, the same one who had stood with the crowd instead of above them, woke up every morning telling himself the same thing. This has to be worth something. This change? It has to lead somewhere good. He didn't want power or fame. He simply wanted humanity to stop being treated like an unwanted guest in a galaxy they had helped keep stable with their effort, sweat, and sacrifice. The galaxy had relied on humanity more times than the Council liked to admit. After the Destroyer incident, Earth's unity had grown even stronger. People who used to compete now worked together. Even old rivals between nations felt smaller. The threat from outside had pushed humanity to realize how much they needed one another. It wasn't perfect. Humans were still humans, but the cooperation felt real. Not forced, but not everyone in the galaxy was happy about it. Inside the Council Hall, the leaders of several alien powers sat in restless debate. The chamber was enormous, built of pale stone and bright glass that shifted colors with the day. Usually, discussions here were calm, controlled, and painfully slow. But lately, arguments broke out like storms. Some council members insisted that humanity was becoming too bold, too confident, too dangerous. Others argued that humans had proven themselves valuable allies, and that suppressing them would only push them to become what the council feared most, one of the elder diplomats. A tall figure with pale, reflective skin spoke with a voice that filled the hall. We have misjudged them since the beginning. They grow under pressure. They rise when struck down. This behavior is not a threat, it is a warning. We must rethink our approach. But the harder line members refused to listen. They didn't like how humanity's technologies advanced faster than predicted. They didn't like how humans formed friendships with other species that were supposed to remain neutral. And they didn't like the fact that a council ban, their strongest tool, had not broken humanity at all. In fact, it had only made them stronger. As debates continued, an unexpected problem surfaced, a quiet crisis spreading behind the scenes. The Council's own fleets were growing weaker. Their resources were stretched thin. Too many conflicts across faraway regions, too many political struggles, too many demands from different species. The galaxy was bigger than any one authority could handle, and the Council knew it. But they hid this truth carefully, terrified that if humanity learned how fragile they were, Earth would gain even more influence. Meanwhile, on Earth, the people didn't know about the Council's internal weakness. What they did know was that something strange was happening. Alien travelers who once avoided Earth entirely were now visiting again, though cautiously. Some came alone, curious about the species that refused to break. Others arrived in small groups, hoping to learn about human innovation, strength, and resilience. They had heard rumors that humans had built new energy shields, new mining engines, and even early models of something that could reshape asteroid routes. Rumors always grew bigger than reality, but even the smallest truth frightened the council. The man at the center of it all found himself busier than ever. He traveled across Earth, speaking with communities, workers, scientists, and young people who wanted to understand what the future might look like. He answered their questions with simple honesty. He told them that fear was natural, but fear should never stop progress. He told them that the galaxy was watching them, not waiting for humans to fail, but watching to see what they would do next. One day, he stood in a massive hangar where engineers were testing the new human-built exploration vessel, a ship designed not for war, but for long-distance travel. The ship gleamed silver blue under the lights, smooth and curved like a drop of water. The chief engineer, an older man with tired eyes but steady hands, spoke with pride. "This ship shows who we are," he said. "Not conquerors, not outlaws, builders." The man nodded, feeling a deep sense of meaning settle in his chest. Maybe this is the real victory, he thought. Not beating the council, but showing the galaxy what humanity can create. But just when Earth seemed to be achieving this new sense of direction, an unexpected incident shook everything again. A small council patrol vessel appeared near Saturn without warning. It wasn't a threat, but it wasn't a peaceful visit either. The ship sent out a message asking for a direct meeting with Earth's representatives. The tone was too urgent, too strained, and for the first time in a long while, the council sounded uneasy. Earth accepted the meeting, though cautiously. A neutral zone was chosen, an old research station, floating halfway between the Moon and Mars. The man, along with a group of quiet but capable advisors, traveled there to greet the council envoys. When they arrived, they prepared themselves for the usual strict and formal attitude of the council. But instead, they found something surprising. The council envoys looked tired, not physically weak, but worn down, like people who had been carrying a burden far too long. The leader of the envoy group stepped forward. "We need to talk," she said, her voice calm but heavy. "The situation in the galaxy is shifting. Forces outside the council's control are rising. We cannot manage it alone." Silence filled the room. For the first time since humanity had been banned, the council was speaking without arrogance, without threat, without superiority. They were speaking like equals. The man kept his expression neutral, though inside he felt a storm of questions. "Why come to us?" he asked quietly. The envoy replied, "Because the galaxy is changing faster than our old systems can handle. Because we cannot deny your people's growth any longer. And because, despite everything, humanity has shown something the council has not seen in a long time: unity in the face of adversity." Earth's representatives exchanged looks. This wasn't a trap. It wasn't a trick. This was something real, an admission of weakness, and at the same time, a request for cooperation. But trust was not a small thing. Not after everything that had happened. The man spoke with steady calmness. "If you want cooperation, then it must be honest. No hidden chains. No bans. No silent threats." The envoy lowered her gaze slightly. "We understand." They talked for hours. The conversation moved through topics like trade routes, security, technology sharing, and political reform. The council wanted humanity to help stabilize certain regions where lawlessness was spreading. They needed a stronger partner, and humanity was the obvious choice: strong, growing, and unafraid to face difficult situations. But the most important part of the meeting happened near the end. The envoy lifted a small device and placed it gently on the table. "This is the official notice," she said. "The ban on humanity is to be removed. No ceremony, no speeches. Just a simple statement that silently changed everything." Some of the advisors gasped softly. Others stared at the device, almost afraid to believe it was real. The man, however, simply leaned back, his breath slow and steady. Not because he didn't care, but because he understood what this truly meant. It wasn't a gift. It wasn't forgiveness. It was acknowledgement. Humanity had forced the galaxy to see them for who they really were: resilient, cooperative, and impossible to suppress. When the meeting ended, the man stepped out onto the viewing deck of the station. Outside the glass window, the stars stretched into endless space, glittering like reminders of every struggle humanity had pushed through. The universe was vast and sometimes unforgiving, but for the first time in a long while, the future felt open-wide, clear, and full of possibility. He stood there quietly, thinking of everyone on Earth who had worked through fear, anger, loss, and uncertainty. People who kept moving forward even when the galaxy told them to stop. People who didn't break when others expected them to fall. He whispered to himself, almost like a promise. We didn't rise because we wanted power. We rose because we refused to stay small. Humanity had not just survived the Council's prohibition. They had outgrown it. They had changed the galaxy by changing themselves. And now, the real test was about to begin. When Earth finally stepped into the galaxy again, it didn't arrive with threats, demands, or loud speeches. It arrived with a calm confidence that surprised even its own people. After years of working quietly, learning, inventing, and rebuilding, humanity felt ready to face the Galactic Council once more, not as outsiders begging for approval, but as equals who had earned their place. The council chambers were already buzzing before the human delegation even reached the station. Representatives from dozens of alien worlds argued nonstop, trying to predict what humanity would say. Some worried humans would accuse the council of injustice. Others believed humans would demand revenge for the ban. A few were convinced humans would arrive with advanced weapons and show strength through intimidation. But Earth had chosen a very different path. Inside the first human-built long-range ship capable of traveling without hyperlanes, the small delegation sat quietly, preparing their message. They weren't soldiers. They weren't politicians who specialized in drama. They were teachers, scientists, peacekeepers, and community leaders, ordinary people who understood the soul of humanity better than anyone else. They weren't there to fight. They were there to speak. Outside the window of their ship, the massive station of the Galactic Council came into view, a structure so large it looked like a floating city. Light from nearby stars reflected off its metallic surface, making it glow like a small sun. Even though the humans had prepared for this moment, they still felt a wave of emotion. This station was once a distant dream. Then it became a place where humanity was rejected. Now it was the place where humanity would finally be heard. When their ship docked, silence fell across the station's observatory deck. Hundreds of alien eyes watched the human delegation step onto the platform. For the first time in many years, humans walked there without escort or restriction. Their steps were slow and steady. There was no fear, no hesitation, only purpose. Inside the chamber, every seat was filled. Representatives from all races waited, whispering among themselves. The council chairperson, an ancient alien with shimmering scales, raised a hand to signal quiet. The room slowly calmed. The moment the humans reached the center platform, the chairperson's voice echoed, "Earth has violated the restrictions placed upon it. You stand here after traveling beyond your solar borders without authorization. The council demands an explanation." The statement was sharp, almost accusatory. Many aliens leaned forward, expecting the humans to argue or defend themselves fiercely. But the human representative stepped forward calmly and spoke with a steady voice. "We came not to argue," the representative said. "We came to speak openly. For years, humanity obeyed your ban. We stayed within our borders. We accepted your judgment, even when we believed it was unfair. But while we stayed grounded, we did not stop growing. We did not stop learning. We did not stop becoming better. The chamber grew quiet. We did not come here to break rules, the representative continued. We came here because we have created a new way of travel, one that does not require your hyperlanes, one that does not violate your laws. We came here because isolation did not weaken us. It helped us understand who we truly are. Several council members murmured among themselves. Some were surprised, others confused. A few looked uneasy. Humanity's representative kept speaking. We are not here to challenge the council. We are here to say that humans will no longer be defined by fear, rumor, or assumption. We will not be told what we are allowed to become. We will not be kept small because others are afraid of what we might grow into. And we will not respond to past rejection with anger. We come here today peacefully, as equals. The words carried a power that had nothing to do with technology and everything to do with dignity. Many alien representatives who had doubted humans felt something soften inside them. They didn't see a dangerous species or unpredictable creatures standing there. They saw people determined, emotional, resilient, and honest. The human delegation had one final message. We are ready to work with the galaxy, the representative said. We seek partnership, not dominance. Cooperation, not conflict. We wish to grow alongside other civilizations, but we will continue to rise, even if we must rise alone. This is our choice. This is our right. When the representative stepped back, silence covered the entire chamber once again. Not the cold silence of rejection. This time, it was the silence of realization. The council had tried to contain humanity. They had tried to slow them down, limit their reach, and control their future. But all they had done was push humans to find their own strength. Now the council was forced to see humanity clearly, perhaps for the first time. The oldest council members whispered among themselves. They had seen thousands of species rise and fall over the ages, but none had risen like this. None had grown so quickly after being restricted. None had turned rejection into motivation. One council member finally spoke. Earth has shown resilience unlike any species we have known. Their developments during isolation prove that they are not a danger, but a potential pillar of advancement. Another added, instead of fear, we should show interest. Instead of restriction, we should offer cooperation. Not everyone agreed, of course. There were still voices of caution, even fear. They defied us. One representative shouted, "Humans cannot be trusted." But another representative answered calmly, "They did not defy us. They surpassed us." Slowly, the chamber shifted. Arguments turned into discussions. Disagreements became debates. And debates became possibilities. Finally, the council chairperson stood once more. After reviewing Earth's peaceful arrival and its willingness to cooperate, we will update their status. Earth will no longer be listed as a restricted world. Instead, they will be recognized as an equal member of the galactic community. A wave of emotion swept through the human delegation. They didn't cheer not out of restraint, but because the moment felt larger than celebration. It felt like a turning point in the story of their species. The message reached Earth moments later. In cities, towns, and remote villages, people watched the broadcast in disbelief. Then joy erupted everywhere, on rooftops, in streets, in schools, in small homes and large public squares. People hugged each other. They cried. They celebrated. Not because the council accepted them, but because they had reached acceptance through their own strength. The final recordings from the delegation showed scenes of the council members approaching the humans, some offering gestures of respect, others asking questions about Earth's new technology. It was the first time in history that aliens came. To humans not as supervisors or judges, but as equals wanting to understand. Back on Earth, life moved forward with a new sense of purpose. The inventions created during the isolation years were now shared with the galaxy. In return, the galaxy shared knowledge and resources openly. Humanity entered a period of growth that was shaped not by fear, but by collaboration. But Earth never forgot the years of the ban. People remembered the disappointment, the determination, the long nights of work in small rooms, the unity that had formed across continents, and the quiet promise they had made to themselves. Never again would humanity let someone else decide its future. The galaxy, once suspicious of humans, now admired them. Alien scientists visited Earth to learn from its innovations. Diplomats praised humanity's patience and calmness. Traders welcomed Earth's new technologies with fascination. And Earth continued rising, not because it wanted to be the strongest, but because it had discovered something far more valuable, a clear sense of identity. Humans now knew who they were. They were the species that turned limitation into invention, rejection into unity, silence into progress, and fear into friendship. They had become stronger than ever, not through war or dominance, but through resilience, patience, and hope. Their journey had changed the galaxy dot, and in the quiet corners of Earth, where new ideas were already forming, humanity prepared for the next chapter of its story, one they would write not with permission, but with purpose.